Yeah. So I'm happy to hear that. Oh man. I've been doing a lot of self-care. Something I got a facial yesterday. Good job. I had a puncture, so it's like all about right now. Good job. I think that's what this is all about, which I think you know as well. Yes. So Albert, you kicked it off. Yes. So I am obsessed with you, but I want those who are tuning in to become familiar with you. So why don't we start by telling me who you are and like what your specialty is? Yeah. So anybody who's out there who's tried the whole manifestation thing, back at 17, I was a model and actress in LA, and I think like any of artists out there in the world, I was trying to figure out how to have some monetary control over my life. So my mom booked a session with the psychic that she's had forever, and the psychic said, go read this book, follow it to a T, and you'll manifest everything you want. And in a way, she was right. So anyways, long story short, I did, and it was all of that stuff. Think positive, visualize, pretend to be what you want to be in the vortex. I went deep down the rabbit hole, and I realized that it never totally resulted in really big manifestations. Little things were coming through. However, I did start to have a flow where I was manifesting, but it was never when I was doing those practices. So at 25, I threw everything away, and I really started to honor the energetic gifts I have. So I create energy, I channel, I'm claircognizant, which is so weird because it means I just know things. Yeah. And so through that process, I started to realize that manifestation is actually quite different than those old models that have been taught to us, which I call spiritual bypass. It's the think positive. And I started to realize, wow, it has nothing to do with positivity. It has everything to do with stepping into your worth. And each time you do that, and you no longer settle for what you did in the past, you create magnetism. And so I started to really watch my patterning and came up with this very specific formula around manifestation that basically encompasses psychology, neuroscience, and the energetic gifts. And that's what I teach. And now the brand has gone on to just like flourish and help many, many people. And we can get into the specifics. Yeah. So just to give you a little background about myself and a tad bit, I grew up where I was programmed religious, right? But I was also that kid that always had questions like this. I am a believer. I believe in source energy, the spirit of God. I believe that exists, and spirit exists. Yeah. But the formulas and how I was taught just didn't serve me even as a kid. And I find that because I was following the leading of my parents, or more so my mom, I wanted to please her, so I almost mimicked her, if that makes sense. But even though it just wasn't really connecting on a deeper level. Like for me, it's almost like I was taught that you just pray about everything and things will work out. Well, that wasn't my reality, especially. Yeah, and I've been there as well. Like, and then I became a professional model, and I came up for like huge jobs, and so I would pray about it, and nothing would happen. I'd be like, okay, now there's a disconnect because it ran so deep, right? So I always had these questions, like, why is this not really connecting for me the way that I was taught? So I want to say it was in March of this year that I found you, and Lacey, I have no idea how I found you. I'm so happy you did. Other than divine intervention, like I just came up on your page, and I was like, oh, she's cute, and then I started digging, and I was like, oh, this is like serious, and I bought the DRE. Yeah. I did the majority of it like really quickly, and I was like, I don't know if that did anything, but your post resonated with me so loudly that I was telling all my girlfriends about you, right? Yeah. And one of my other girlfriends bought, I think, the DRE or maybe like Unblocked Child, which bought that way, I think. And we were like exchanging notes, like I don't really know if we're doing it right. And then when I got thrust into like a real deep cocoon when I got sick, I heard your name, like I heard Lacey, and I was like, wow, from your guides. Yes, I got myself up off of my Chase Lounge, and I went to the computer, and that's when I started redoing everything in the DRE, and then I was like, that's when things began to happen for me. Like I started to connect the dots from my childhood and programming and conditioning, and like then at this point, like the hypnosis state really started to work for me, and I started getting these insane downloads, and then that's when I reached out, got connected to Jessica, and I was like, we gotta do this live, let's get to the next level. I want to share you with everybody. So thank you. What's so crazy, I think the last thing I said to Jessica was like, I cut this person out of my life that I was toying around with the idea, like maybe give me a partner, but I realized it was me basically repeating patterns and habits. So it was a clear no. The resistance, I take as a clear no. So cut that out. And then I manifested in my apartment. And
Thank you. This is a new style. I'm a little bit nervous. But it's like whatever, who cares? It'll be fine. It's meant to protect my hair.
It's so interesting because I see things through energy, right? And I think what's so tricky about, which I like respect every religion, every spiritual process, but what I think is so tricky is usually there's a form of dogmaticness of how to practice, and people they're like not tuning into their
does that look even to you
ways
guys?
to tap in with source towards God, universe, forever. And so prayer is a really interesting thing to look at. You know, like a lot of us are taught from different forms of religion that you just like get on your knees and pray or whatever the process is. There's many different processes. You know, for Muslims, there's so many different ways to pray. But it's so interesting because even with this process, like essentially we're kind of breaking into a different energetic of prayer because it's more of a dance with source, less than like begging or need or asking. It's because what I really believe in, like the foundation of this process, is that everything we're doing in this work is to get back to your true, whole, authentic, worthy self, which every one of us were born as. We were born crystal clear on this planet, and then we're almost done. Pain, programming, and all of that kind of creates this onion shell around us. And so we're not really like super clear source energy. However, the more we like,
my Instagram is the same name.
That away, we start to discover our dance with source, and it's much more.
You can't see my setup down here.
It's understanding what your authentic self is deserving of, and I think source, God, universe, remember, is here to align you with everything you are destined to be here for, which is your soul wants.
Could you imagine?
You start to really get back to that truly authentic place. So it's really cool that you touched on that because. Even if somebody comes from a religious background or not, this work is so beneficial and applicable to them as well, and it definitely doesn't go against it. But I think something we all need to reframe is like a different form of prayer is more active and it's more of an exchange than it is sort of like begging, a hoping, auditioning. You know, so
I'm just gonna lay it down.
Right.
You know, I took away all of the things and I was still jammed, and I realized once I got down to the roots of my why, and in all transparency and honesty, like I
is this straight too? Yeah, that's straight.
Yeah, the level of low self-worth.
Same. I was always like very externally, seemingly incredibly confident, you know, outspoken, dynamic, but my subconscious, what it was projecting, was the most insecure low self-worth, and it's so changeable through neuroplasticity, which you're starting to experience.
Yes. A conversation with my agent in May. Actually, it was via text at first, and I sent her a text and I said, when the world opens back up, I'm no longer willing to go back to working the jobs that I've been doing for the past 14 and a half years. Amazing, right? Understood. But then, of course, I was tested. So these clients that I've been working for would come back and make a day rate, and I simply decline. I cannot accept this. And it's happening rapidly, and I'm sitting here just like shooty eyes, LinkedIn. But I have a piece at the end of the day, and I told her when we got on the phone, I said, I am well aware that I am jumping off the cliff with no foreseeable netting underneath me, but what I do know is that the net is going to appear. But I will not accept these jobs I've been doing because I'm so much more, I'm worth more than that, I'm bigger than more than that. And for me,
oh my god, I need to hear this. God damn.
I know when the wounds happen and when I put myself in that small box, and it happened 15 years ago when I had a conversation with my agent back then about my expansive career, the vision that I have for myself in my career. And she looked at me and she was like, you'll never have that type of career.
Well, so for anybody listening, that's when a block is imprinted. So anytime you've experienced that in your life, and I'll get more into specifics so people understand what we're talking about, blocks, tests, all the stuff you've been experiencing. So I'll let you finish really quick, and then I'll explain for people who are like, what does it mean?
Yes, when she said that to me, it pierced me, it physically hurt, even though they were words, like I felt heartbroken. And I remember leaving out in my agency at that time, I held myself together in front of her, I walked out of that agency, and I was hysterical, like I was sobbing, like my soul was hurt. And I got myself in that small box that was created for me 14 years ago, and I played nice. I played their game that they wanted me to play. I didn't make any fuss, I didn't make a noise. And at 35 years old, it's like I woke up after starting the process of your work, and I'm like, no, this is not my best. I got work so much more than this, and it's not even an egoic thing. Like I know that I've been playing myself small for 14 years. I know that I've been playing the game that they set up for me. I know coming into this, leaving my home in Little Rock, Arkansas, moving to New York City by myself, I knew what I was deserving of and what I was worthy of. But if they told me, no, that's not gonna be your destiny, this is gonna be your destiny, and I said, okay. Until now, I'm like, I'm not playing that game.
So I want to break down for anybody listening so that you guys understand. I made the weird mistake when I started this of kind of creating our own language. And it's only because I was always trying to hit the energetic note, kind of like a music note, where it's like, well, the best way to describe energetically what's happening is, you know, test or whatever. So for anybody who's not familiar, everything that Danny's talking about, the old form of manifestation, that's what we talked about before, the think positive, the visualize, pretend to be who you want to be, I started to realize that there's actually three really important steps to manifestation that aren't quite those. So kind of to encompass this process, the way that I started to realize it's spiritual, yes, but it's actually really easy step-by-step psychology and neuroscience. So basically exactly what you're alluding to, Danny, from the ages of 0 to 7, whatever's imprinted into us, whatever we experience, may it be from our community, our family, our peers, media, everything we take in, we start to create either high self-worth or low self-worth. So whether we are worth what we're wanting or not worth what we're wanting in ratio to all of the aspects we're calling into our life. So we're actually not manifesting from our thoughts in theory, we're manifesting from those subconscious loops that are projecting out that we're imprinted. And we don't know that. So that's when like Danny and I are talking about, we're like, on the outside, we're so confident in our conscious mind. However, when you start to do, this certain hypnosis process that I created, and you start to get down there, you realize, oh, what I'm projecting in ratio to what I want is not matching up, and there's not self-worth there. So it's really whatever we're projecting from our subconscious, we're receiving back. Where we experience high self-worth in ratio to what we're calling in, we're manifesting very simply and quickly. What we're projecting out that's low self-worth in ratio to what we're calling in. So that you had that shame hit you, 14 years ago in your brain, so literally it imprinted in your subconscious, you'll never have this big career that your soul knows it's on the planet to have. So it created a block, and you've been then projecting that and receiving jobs that match that small box. So it's okay though, because you're aware now, and you're starting to do things correctly, so it'll all start to turn around. So there's super hope in everything. So that's one aspect. It's that we're not manifesting from our thoughts, it's our subconscious. So I always give this great example where I'm like, you can be positive until the cows come home, but a really, really good indicator that positivity is not what manifests is if you look at, unfortunately, narcissists. I'm sure in New York, like I know in LA, many people that are like kind of badass narcissists manifest very big things. So,
and you're looking at them like, what do you have? Absolutely. It makes sense once you start, understanding the work and the psychology behind it. It really makes sense why certain people are just really good at manifesting super quickly. So for me, like, I'm having to go back and learning.
Yeah.
That's why I was that situation that happened 14 years ago. What I did was I had to now that I am like the understanding and awareness that I have now. I walked into this room 14 years ago with my younger self, and I have a program that I had about. And it was the agent that spoke that to me, and I corrected her. I understand that you don't see that for my life, but like I will have that experience because it's not a line. And I'm absolutely out of my
Stay.
I have for my life.
Stay.
Here.
Okay.
And we walked out of that agency, and the contract was like really everything.
This is a mess.
So it's been a lot of that, and it's been a 4 week. I mean, it didn't happen overnight, but I would say during those 4 weeks that I was sick, it's really when I allowed myself to like get into the realistic realities of everything that's been going on in my life. And absolutely everything makes sense. Like even the relationships that I was in. But anyway, at the end of the day, like the work is so worth it, and I just feel like I understand now why I was receiving certain behavior like as acceptable with like the family that I grew up in and what I saw in my own household, and then like subconsciously I'm thinking like, one, these are just how relationships are, and two, I just need to work extra hard for them to see my point and for them to respect my boundaries. And now I'm like, absolutely not. We're not in a place you can't respect my core values. You can call me extra and whatever is necessary, but we're not doing these, and it's not going to be about having exposure. I'm giving myself the exposure. Exposure is we're not in alignment. You're not my person, And honestly, if I could be celibate and single for some years, I'm okay with that because I'm no longer willing to give myself over to a man I'm not fully aligned with. It's just not worth it.
incredible. So that's another thing I want to break down for anybody listening. So that all plays into the worth aspect. So the 3 parts of manifestation that we discovered, we talked about thoughts don't create our reality. It's our subconscious invitation that we're projecting out, receiving back. That as we know that you're doing the work, I've done a ton of it, is changeable through neuroplasticity because our brains, we discovered 20 years ago that they're plastic. And
Look at this. This is what we're working on.
Through this process of hypnosis that I created, you can actually get back down to those key memories, and you can
No,
shift that because
I'm not related to Dave Chappelle.
So your subconscious doesn't
That's
know
funny.
what's real and what's not real. So as you're starting to create this new
That
story,
is ha funny.
the old loops, and it takes reinforcement in time, such as you're doing. But and we're actually creating a whole new process with the neuroscientists and psychologists that we brought on. We're going to be launching in November an even more targeted daily reprogramming exercise with Dr. Tara. We're so excited. But so that's the one aspect we've covered, and then what you're talking about, you mentioned tests, and that you're not settling anymore. Those are 2 really important key components that go together in that 3-part process. They're kind of like the 3rd step. And so what I started to realize when I was doing manifestation, I would always start to realize that when I was getting closer to something that I was manifesting,
Oh
But
yeah,
I started to realize
definitely
that
been there.
who you are, and I was like, no more. I'm worth more than this. I deserve, because again, it was my old programming that I picked up in childhood that was just playing out and repeating itself as low self-worth that I picked up from my mom. And so when I went, no, like my story will be different, just as you're doing in your career, I realized I started to get tested. So I would call in a partner, and it would be like so much of the list, but they were emotionally unavailable. And it gets so hard because I was like, oh my God, it's everything I want on paper. Maybe it'll change. And I'd have to go, no.
So you be unavailable and the avoidance, those that's what I attract. That's my dad.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. And we tend to. Mom or dad.
No. It is
Hard no. And I promise you, I mean, there's a step-by-step process. So anybody who's interested in this, we have how to manifest, and then we suggest doing inner child, then we do shadow, and then the daily reprogramming. But the how to manifest teaches you, and it talks more about what this means, the testing. So anybody, if you're sitting there thinking about your manifestation process, when you've manifested big, very kismet things, I bet if you look back, you'll realize the universe gave you a test in front of you. And the test was, it was energetically testing to see if you would settle for old, low self-worth behavior again. So for you, like I want to hear more about the apartment, because that'll really clearly, I'll probably outline those to people, where, you know, it's like everything on your list, but.
So I gotta give you a little backstory before we actually get into the apartment. So me and my ex broke up a year ago this month. He's an amazing man. We're actually really good friends and still business partners to this day, but we both agreed it was like an amicable breakup. We both agreed we're better as friends and business partners than lovers, so that's great. He's so magnetic and amazing. So being with him, we were together for 6 years. We lived together for 4 years. Amazing condos, and I ended up feeling, and I didn't realize this until we broke up, and I got my own space. And mind you, prior to meeting him, I always had my own space, beautiful areas in New York. But being with him, you know, living with him for those 4 years, I forgot my whole capability of manifesting my work, right? Being in this beautiful condos, like marble bathrooms, it was just like insane value, like it was next level, right? So when we broke up, I was feeling very low self-worth, like, well, that life is great, but it's over. All this craziness, right? Like I'll never be able to afford those types of condos and all this crazy stuff. So I'm in my current apartment, and it's cute. It's like on the East River, a balcony. I mean, if anyone saw where I live, they'd be like, "Oh, you were psychotic." This apartment is beautiful, okay? But for me,
We're not living with like 5 roommates and you know Dumbo, they're like, dude.
like the apartment is absolutely great. It's stunning. Like I have a friend that just moved here from my hometown, and he's living in my space right now. He's like, I would actually live for the rest of my life. You know, it's a beautiful space.
Yeah.
But for me and what I know I can call in, I can do better. Like, yeah, so I'm sitting there thinking to myself, this is since being sick, so this was a month ago, and I'm like, I don't want to live in this apartment anymore. My lease is coming to an end. Like I want to find you know, space. Made the list. I also want a marble bathroom, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's my marble bathroom. Like, like washing dryer, marble bathroom. I you know, want to shower. Like, you know, want to shower first. I was sipping real hard with force all the things, and I want another balcony. Oh, gold pictures. Very specific gold pictures.
I love the details.
Okay. Lacey. Oh my God. Everything was in this apartment.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Totally understandable. She sent me a virtual tour, everything is beautiful, and I was literally watching the tour like, and marble bathroom, everything, Lacey. Gold fixtures in the kitchen. I was like, this is my apartment. Put the money down, sign the lease, boom. Lacey, I went to the apartment for the first time a couple weeks ago, and
Okay, I don't know. I'm like, do I look like a man? Was that what you were trying to say? Dave Chappelle? I don't think he's very attractive. Like, he might be attracted to somebody. This hair's next, and then this one, and then I'll close in. I'm gonna line them up, try to mimic this side, and then we're gonna move to the sides and do one more line here. We're gonna finish out this line and another line here, and then I'm gonna braid down the middle so that I don't have to do individual hairstyles. And here's what it's giving so far. Like Zoe Kravitz, but it's like tree braids or pick and drop braids. So right here I'm picking. You know what? Let me do this later.
A busted out window
so for anybody listening, that's the second part. So we covered that you're projecting from your subconscious, that's what you're manifesting, you're trying to unblock those things, right? That's the first. The third was not settling. You'll be tested, for all the self-worth stuff. So that's the third part. The second part is, so in old manifestation processes, they always talk about, they're like, visualize everything you want. And I don't know about you guys, but I would visualize how I was blue in the face, and I always give the funny joke, many people have heard this before. Yeah, I would be like waitressing at the Laugh Factory on Sunset and visualizing my home in Malibu, but making like $300 a week. My home in Malibu is not yummy. Right, so simple, like neuroscience behind that, when we are visualizing, which is actually a fine practice and it's great, but if your subconscious has never seen to believe that what you want is possible or accessible to you, it's like, no, it's not happening, because it literally is like, that's impossible. It's the reptilian brain. So you have to actually go out and find what I call expanders. And so it's just like very simple psychology. When you, through osmosis, when you're spending time with these people, when you are starting to engage with them, whether it's on social media, you have to actually show your brain that what they have, a version of what you want is possible. You have to see to believe. So for example, for me back then, wanting this Malibu home with like a sauna and an infinity pool and all, whatever it was that I wanted, I didn't even know anybody that had that. So I'm like a small town in, Central California with a dad that's a rower. Like never seen that before. But it's so interesting, through osmosis, through meeting people and finding expanders, now the home that I have in Topanga that I bought, for instance, has everything that I've ever wanted. It's actually more ideal, but it's still in the same energetic compartment of what I wanted in Malibu, but I had to go and find expanders. So expanders are people that you identify with that come from or have a very similar background to where you currently are now, and they've gone on to manifest what you're looking for. So you can find those on social media, you can find those in person. It's more effective and it's faster in person. So you can actually show your brain what's possible. That's what he was for you. Yeah. So living in those different environments, you got to see, this is possible, even though it sounds like your self-worth is kind of shrinking, in the sense that you were like, he can have this, but I can't. Yes. Which is what your reprogramming see. And so that's one thing I want to talk about in what you said. And then the second that's so interesting, and I have one question for you. This person that you've been dating, that you're like, no more, that no more process, letting them go, how close was that to this place coming through, this test place? Yeah. So anytime you jump off of a cliff, and I call that what you're doing with your current agent, and you're telling them right, this is scary, I'm not gonna make money, but I'm saying no to all of these little jobs, that's jumping off the cliff. But the beautiful thing is you're reprogramming your subconscious, you're expanding during this time, you're doing everything you need to create that net. So when you jump off of a cliff or you walk through fear, letting go of that whole dating experience, telling your current management, you're like, I'm not settling for these jobs anymore, that's called passing tests, but also jumping off of a cliff. And it creates magnetism because you're communicating to source, the universe, God. You're like, I'm no longer settling. And no, not settling is what really creates that magnetic force. So I'm quickly interrupting this episode to invite you, if you're ready to start your manifestation journey, or if anything you've heard in our manifestation episodes, but the year-long date, you can use our special code. Now back to the episode. So, and this is what's so exciting, when tests start to come through, which you now know what this current place is, it's a test, the closer you are, the more you're growing your self-worth. So the lower your self-worth is, the more obvious the tests will be. Right. Tests show up in opportunities. It could be like the first places you were looking at, had nothing on your list. It was so obvious. Maybe they were the right location and the right price. But the more your self-worth is growing, the closer your self-worth aligns with the self-worth of what you're calling in, the tests start to become, I don't know what to call them, but they're so hard to pinpoint that it could be a test. And your only downfall was that you didn't go to it in person to really see. Because you would have known, and you would have been able to pass it. You would have been like, this is a test. But it's so interesting because it really shows energetically where you're at. And what I mean by this is a really good thing. Number one, you're a very good manifester because down to the gold fixtures, everything, so specific, you're starting to make it happen. But it's interesting because you can always tell based on what's showing up in your life how much you're growing through this process. So you can see how much your subconscious is changing, how much you're expanding because of what's presenting. And so even though this place has come through, it's a headache, of course, you're trying to get out of it and stuff, but it is so close to what you wanted. And again, you didn't really technically not pass it because you can get to see it. Right. And you're technically passing it now by being like, no, my lawyers are involved in getting rid of this. But it's also very much a mirror for how much you grow. So the place is almost what you want. It's so close to what you're calling in that it actually shows that a lot of are going to be up-leveled now if you really stay this course of unblocking, expanding, and passing the test. So you have to get out of this apartment. Non-negotiable. Non-negotiable. And the two key things for you right now, because you're so close to many things, jobs, and when you're ready to open up to dating again, you're so close that the two most important non-negotiables are to keep expanding. So what I call fragment expanders. So like in dating, if you start to look in your subconscious, you're doing unblocked love, and you're looking through it, you're like, wow, the person I'm calling in, I want them to have A, B, C, and D. Amazing communication, super dedicated. I can be myself with them. Maybe spiritual, like whatever those things are that are non-negotiables for you. When you're looking at it in the subconscious state and that hypnotic state, you know what the hypnosis is, and you go, oh my gosh, I actually don't believe on a subconscious level that I can have someone who deeply wants to commit. For example, you would have to go out and find what I call fragment expanders. So maybe you have relationships you've seen, you know, through people around you that have everything but good commitment. Maybe he or she's cheating all the time or whatever. You just need to go find that fragment expansion of the relationship that encompasses sort of what you want, but it's like the deepest commitment. And you really identify with one of the people in the couple, like in the partnership. So right now, your key things are to find all the fragment expanders you need: career for this next level of jobs you're calling in, relationship, and definitely, it sounds like to me, and just energetically, I'm picking up that you're expanded enough in home. Like you will be able to do that. You just have to pass the test. You're so close, but that's really where you're at right now. Expansion, unblocking, anything that's coming up. And the craziest thing that people don't realize that I've started to read through energetics, love and money are always connected. Always.
And you go into a deeper explanation about that? Because I heard you say that before, I think on one of your podcasts, and I was like, oh shit, there's like some truths to that, but I want you to break it down like on a deeper level.
Yes, so here's just a good example to look at. When you tell me time frame wise, when you started to, like, first, when you communicated to your current management or agent that you're like, no more, I'm not taking these type of jobs. Timeline of when you told this ex relationship or this relationship you've been having, no more. And timeline of the tests that started coming through with the jobs, where they're like similar echelon, but more money. Tell me those time frames, and then I'll show you how they're so connected.
Got it. So the conversation that I had with my manager, that happened on Friday, let's say 2 weeks ago. The guy we had dating is not too big of a term, but the guy that I was like chit-chatting with, that happened on, let's say, that following Wednesday. And then the apartment happened in between it. So they were literally lazy back, it was in threes. Yeah. Within the matter of 2 weeks, it was back to back to back. And this was just 2 weeks ago.
Oh, this is so fun, because it's when you're starting to play with magic, like you're seeing your witchy powers, right? You're like, whoa, whoa.
Yeah, I literally am like, what the F is going on right now? I'm like, I have peace because I know that my manifestations are orbiting me. I feel it. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
But I vacillate between frustration and like the conversation with my manager, it wasn't frustrating. It was like, I need to just speak my truth and get this off my chest so that you know where my head is at and that I appreciate my work. With the guy, he was very much like, I'm not doing this. Like, goodbye. And with the apartment, though, the apartment is frustrating because I'm like, I am tired.
Yeah. So this is such a good, clear example. So apartment is connected to the money piece. So whenever I say money, energetically, getting into energetics, that's what manifestation is. Money is anything to do with security. So it can be apartment, it can be job, career, it can be like physical money. So those two are connected. And then love is the dating experience, like your exchange with partnership. So right now you're currently being like, fuck no.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm not all capital letters. Yeah, all caps. You're like, I'm really stepping into my true authentic self, and I'm not going to settle for anything beyond that because I have been. You know how uncomfortable it's been for so long. And you're ready for the real deal. You're ready for the real deal where you live. You're ready for the real deal in your partnership, and you're certainly ready for your career. So it's not crazy that you're being tested with all of them. So I imagine too, like dating wise, you're gonna start to have tests like when you're allowed to be on the streets again, like when you're out and about again, or you're on an app or whatever. It's gonna be identical to the ones you're receiving in jobs right now. It's gonna be like seemingly the list, kind of, you know, kind of how the opportunities are more money, and you're like, no. So that's a clear example of how one is tested. So initially it was just jobs coming through being like, dingling care, do you need a job right now? You're like, no. And then it was a similar job, but it's more money, and you're like, no. That's exactly the series of how you'll be tested. And then eventually they're going to start to be kind of hard to identify their tests, just like your apartment. So it shows that your worth is growing in love and money. So when it starts to come to relationships, the test will be similar unless you've grown your subconscious and expansion so much, it'll just goes straight to that place where it's hard to recognize. And once you get to that place, it's kind of like it's all building, the hard to recognize place, and you pass that, it's just gonna be totally flowing. You're gonna be like, got it, a big job's gonna come through. So you're doing everything perfectly, you just have to keep expanding and unlock. You're on the perfect, like I cannot wait for you to write it to tell us how you're manifest through this time.
This is exciting because I know in my gut, Susanna said that I am clairvoyant, and I was like, what's that mean? And she was like, basically like spirit deals with you like visions or dreams, like you feel it, know, and it's so true since a kid. Like what I would say is that every man that I have attracted, whether I committed to these men or not, I knew it was a no. Yeah. And I still proceeded forward. And where I am right now in my life is not even I think or I feel, I am done with that. It's such a fine-tuned sensitivity where I can meet a guy and my girlfriend will be like, this is it. And I'm like, no, not.
It's my favorite time.
Always close my eyes to be like, they know you're being dramatic, you're being too, but I would literally downplay myself.
Yeah.
And during this season of my life lately, I'm like, no, like get back into that lane where you know in your gut the moment that you meet him, they're like, yeah, he's cute, he's great, got a good conversation. I don't care, there's tons of guys that they're cute and great, have a great conversation.
Totally.
So you mentioned you were doing a podcast, I think it was with Jenna, the human design.
Yeah.
We were saying that you get a feeling on your tongue and you get like a smell. For me,
How long have I been doing my hair tonight, or just in general? Because in general, I started learning how to do protective styles in 2019, but I was so bad. I was really ass at it. It was very, very gross. But you gotta start somewhere, you know?
Everyone is psychic. We are all
But
even like simple science, if you break it
just
down,
hair in general,
animals have to live off their instincts.
I also started doing like weaves and wig installs and stuff like that in like 7th grade, 8th grade.
But everybody is, and it moves all of us, just like Danny said.
This hair, I've been doing this for a hot minute. I started the first 2 rows back here yesterday. Well, it's officially Friday, so Wednesday night, but I did the bulk of it like overnight. When I'm doing my own hair, I let life get in the way. But I used to be really hard on myself about it. It's just like the hair's gonna get done, so I think this is enough. Yes, that's fine. Maybe I
such a way where it was like, then you'll wake up and like the life is passing by and you're missing your assignment because you're just like so deeply into this programming of like your childhood, your conditioning, or how people are gonna judge you and like, oh, you're being harsh and mean to him. I don't care. Like, and I'm not harsh and mean, but I no longer abandoning myself to be in a relationship with somebody.
And that's the key takeaway is, and especially as women, many, you know, and like we're in a Western culture, but you can't imagine like all over the world, we're so programmed to stay small, to stay the nice girl, and whatever, whoever's identifying as a woman, like there's a lot of programming there, and your authentic self isn't like.
Is this crooked?
You know, like when you came onto the planet.
It feels crooked.
All of this
I can't tell anymore. I've been staring at my scalp for hours. Is it crooked? Is it straight?
Beautiful person is, or whatever. Really, it's all about starting to learn who am I really, and
Fucking
it's
hell,
not
I
just
can't
like
tell.
you're saying, it's who is my authentic essence, who am I truly, and when we start to get back into that place and only come from deservingness, from that place of expansion, we connect with everything, every single thing. And I want to share with everybody that I think this is such an important message. Anybody can manifest what they want in their life. I've seen the craziest stuff, and I give this example. There was this one
I think I'm doing too much. Fuck.
She couldn't manifest anything. She had a lot of body image issues.
But even now,
like straight
I
up
know
media, because she didn't have the type of body that media projected was like the right body to be loved, and then grew up like in a very affluent area, yada yada yada. She had never had a real relationship, and I always say this. I'm like, for one person,
I think I'm just gonna have to be okay with it if it's crooked. I can't tell.
With the people we're with, we'll stay connected. If we don't, we're not meant to stay connected. Right? Like that's true spiritual consciousness and growth is. So with this particular woman, she was like, I'm broken.
Is this straight?
I've never had one. I think she was 27.
Yeah, I think so.
And that's when I used to take clients, and I was like, I need you to go out and find an expander, not even fragment. Like I want the whole picture. She has to look just like you, like exact same body. She has to come from, because a lot of our blocks come from what we were told is important growing up, and for her, like in her certain religion and everything. education, wealth, and beauty. And so for her, I was like, they have to be educated, they have to be wealthy, they have to look just like you, and they have to be in the most dynamic, loving partnership. And she ended up finding it with a girl at work, same body, very similar educational background, same level of wealth. And when she finally saw that, she was like, oh, well, she can have that, I can too. 2 weeks later, she manifested her partner. Anybody can manifest. It really is getting back to your true, authentic, worthy, whole self, which you're actively doing right now. And it's like, to me, it's like eating a cake. It's me so happy. And we all are capable of that.
I did the human design. I'm going to do a further reading with Jenna, but I just did a test to figure out what I am, and I'm a generator.
So lucky. They're the most magnetic, I think, and then they have the most energy. It's like the luckiest thing.
Right. So I'm going to go deeper into like full-blown reading,
Yeah.
but I'm just like, I have this excitement. I fluctuate. It's like I'm excited. I'm also just kind of like, okay, what's going on in the universe? Like, where is it? When's it coming through? But I know
It's all happening. I can tell you, like, straight up energetically, it's all working right now because you're doing so many shifts at once.
I always felt like before I had the lingo, right before I met you, I always had this obsession or been drawn to Will and Jada. Like I
Me too. I have the chills. They're like the best, the most expansive couple on the planet.
I think so too, and I never hear what anyone has to say about them. Fortunately, now that I have the lingo, they are my expanders. And for me, I just feel like they've been married for so long, and they're so like they let you know they want.
I'm gonna stretch because this hurts.
Most brilliant thing on the planet.
Brilliant, and I just feel like they are my expanders when it comes to relationship. At the end of the day, like the way that they are transparent with one another, they're truly committed, and even how Jada has said, like, I realize Will is not responsible for my happiness, like I have to find my own happiness. The bits that they let us into, for me, I'm like, that's ideal.
Okay.
I love it. That's your perfect expanders right now too. And they're like massive also financial expanders. Like talk about two incredibly successfully financial people together and couples. So that's a great example for anybody tuning in. I don't know if you know them, you may not.
I don't know.
Yeah, so it goes to show you don't have to know them. They can be somebody on social media or in the public eye. But they're such a fantastic couple for expansion because they let you into the world through the red tape. I mean, if everybody had that, we would have such quick expanders. But you get to see through the trials and tribulations. Like, I don't know if you identify with Jada, but she had that fantastic episode on her dad and how with addiction, and he was never totally like available and emotionally good. So it shows you, you're like, well, look at her career and look at her marriage. Like, if she can have it, I can too.
Yeah.
It's incredible. You know, I mean, they have just expansion everywhere. I watch it and I'm like, this is everything I want.
Yeah. When they handle their kids, I've said for many years now that our parents are merely funnels to bring us into the world. They're not, our parents are not like after a certain age, your parents do not have more authority over your life and what you do and where you live, and like it's just I feel like they just get it because they've even said like our kids are borrowed, like we just are here to raise them after a certain age, and then they're their own, even now they're their own people. And I love how they let Willow shave her head and like self-expression. It all makes so much sense to me, and it's an inspiration. So
I agree. What's your sign?
I'm a Gemini.
Oh, dude, you have it all. I'm like, where are you? There's the second is manifest. So you're good. You're on this. So the most exciting piece, and like not to like toot my horn because it's the process that we have, but now you have the tools. The world's your oyster. You literally have everything going for you. You know, like now you finally have the tools and you have the step by step, and you're gonna find your own process around it of your patterning and what works for you and how to identify your test. But it's like it's all happening, and it's so awesome. It's so magical. So I cannot wait for the email to come through where you're like, the apartment, the crazy job I never thought I could get. That's gonna get all the other jobs, and then the partnership.
Yeah, I'm so glad we connected.
Me too. I'm so grateful. I'm so thankful too. And you know, it's really cool to see your journey through this work because a lot of people will discover the brand and not know how to engage with it correctly. So they'll be like, I'm just gonna try this one thing. And you know, they're like, it's not working. But that's why I always like to tell people, if you're interested in this work, you have to start with how to manifest and do inner child and shadow because it actually gives you the tools. It's literally the quickest, easiest step-by-step process of everything we talked about here of how to manifest. And then you go and you do the inner child, which is like a workshop that takes you through your childhood to look at each phase and then block it. And then you go to your shadow, which is where the real magnetism is pertaining to work and love, like career and love, because what we don't own owns us. So like people will come to me and they'll be like, I want a certain amount of social following, or I want my business to be doing X, Y, and Z, or at my job, like in corporate, I want to go to the next level. And I'm like, where are you hiding? Because where you're hiding, you're projecting out, don't look at me, I don't want you, stay back subconsciously. So you have to integrate all of that shadow in order to be like, no, look at me, I want it, come my way. And so those three are the key if anybody gets really excited about this work, you have to do those to find the success that you're just now having, Danny. Like the momentum.
Yeah, and it's not. I want people to know it's not easy.
No.
It's not easy. Like
Emotionally, it's not easy.
No, at all. One of my goals was talking to she was like, I'm taking the day off, and I was like, take the day off.
Take care of yourself.
You have to, yeah, to go so deep, and I do feel like that's what really stops a lot of people from even getting into therapy. I used to do talk therapy, but talk therapy just doesn't resonate with me anymore. Like, your work has just been like so expansive for me, and I'm not saying that because we're doing it live. Like, the tools that you provide and the understanding and the clarity that you gift us with to then go in and like actually do the work and like follow the guidance of like hypnosis has been so profound, but you do have to take care of yourself. And like for me, like yesterday, I did a whole self-care day. Like, I did a facial for 2 hours and then acupuncture, and it's crazy to saw the needles on the table, like tears were just streaming. Like, sorry, I feel like certain parts of my back moves, it's just like an insane release.
Totally.
And everything just like, I'm just stopped.
I'm so happy you're engaged because the release is so important. And yeah, exactly what you're talking about, Danny. Like, we'll get the feedback a lot from people. They'll be like, when they do how to manifest inner child and shadow, which we call the basics manual, when they do that, they'll be like, it's like 10 years of therapy at once. So it's really intense for people. And honestly, like I couldn't think of a better time, especially if you're single and like you're not a mom that's, full-time with your child right now or working from home or a dad, but it's really important that you carve out that space for true self-care, even if it's like an Epsom salt bath every night, just feeling your feelings, like have that space. And then once you're into the work, like 3 months in, it's like super sweet, it's easy and not having as much anymore. But the first beginning, you're like, am I gonna get through this?
Oh, that's hard. What can I find myself up to?
Totally. And we always say too, if you have a therapist, like so smart to do this alongside, or a support group, or a friend who can really support you through it as well. But I'm the type of person, I don't know if you're like this, but I'm like, I just want what I want. So I'm like gonna go all in and speed up the process to get that with my manifestation.
Yeah, I know one of my girlfriends, she messaged me the other day, and she was like, dude, I feel like you're sprinting through this, because like I sent her a voice note of like a realization that came through, and I was like, oh my god, this and this. And I was like, the voice note, she's like, dude, this is so profound. And she's like, how did you come to this realization? I was like, this is work, dude.
It's just subconscious. Your subconscious is finally speaking to you and telling you, like, this is what's in your way, this is what you need to see to believe more, and this is where you can't settle anymore. Like once you start to dance with that, and that's kind of what we talked about in the beginning, like prayer is so much more of a dance and an energetic exchange. And if you look at like indigenous cultures, prayer or communicating with like the gods or whomever, it was active, it was through dance, it was through ritual, it was through ceremony. And so it's like, I think a lot of us don't realize that when we get to the context of prayer, that it's just sort of asking and hoping and wishing, or feeling shameful, like guilt and that you shouldn't have what you want. I don't think that that's the truth after prayer. I think it's finding your own dance with communicating with the Force is so important.
Awesome. So where can people find you?
Yes. So first and foremost, we have what's called the Pathway membership, and that includes every one of the workshops. So it's the first 3 that we tell everybody to do, the daily reprogramming exercise. We have love in there, how to manifest money, and it has many of our other workshops. And plus, once a month, we do what's called Supported. So it's basically where people can ask in their questions, and we take the most frequently asked questions, and we answer them. So it's class. So that's the Pathway. It's the most affordable, accessible. You get everything in it. And then you can do a la carte. So you can try with the basics module, which is how to manifest in your child's shadow, the daily reprogramming exercise. That's kind of what you started with. And you're like, is this working? I don't know if I'm doing this right. So always start with the basic module. And then even better, if you're watching this and you're like, I just have questions. The really cool thing we launched this month that I got so excited about, it was actually a survey we sent out, and somebody suggested it would be awesome for $25 if somebody could write in and ask any question they're having in their practice and receive the answer back, because we have 4 coaches that you can work with, because I don't take clients anymore. And so it's been the most successful thing. So they send you back a voice note that's very detailed based on your question, where they read the energetics of what's happening with you. They tell you exactly what you need to do and which work you need to do. So it's so powerful. It's awesome. So there's that. And then of course the expanded podcast. And the first one to start with, if you're like, I just want to learn about this process, it's called Manifestation 101. It's the best episode to start with. And then any of the episodes that are titled Explain. And you'll be like, oh, okay, I get this more. I understand what they were talking about a little bit more.
Guys, I'm telling you, I would definitely start with the podcast. Lacey's work works. Like, I just want to personally thank you, because I feel like you probably got your ass handed to you in order to like learn this process, because
my way of learning in life is going through every rock bottom possible in love, money, even me. I've been trying to get pregnant for the last 5 years. It's like, do you think this is going to be different?
not
going through the
fucking
process and
straight.
giving yourself an effort to and
It's
surrounding
hairs that don't belong.
because it's, for me, like, this work has been so freeing and liberating and mind-blowing and expansive for me. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Oh, thank you. I'm so proud you're doing it. And that's like what makes me the happiest is just that you're doing it, you're seeing the shifts, you're feeling the momentum, and then you definitely have to email us.
Thank you,
So
babe.
nice to talk to you, Danny. I'm so grateful.
Thank you. Have an awesome day ahead, babe.
You too. Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning into
I'm
the
getting
episode.
frustrated.
I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, we did. And in case you're not totally ready to join the pathway yet,
Alright, I'm
I wanted
gonna
to share
leave
some of our
this
free
and go to the
offerings
other one.
that I'll often suggest to people as a little bit of a blueprint to get them started on their manifestation journey. The first place I like to direct people completely for free is the motivation. You can see it linked below or on our homepage as our testimony library. And it's categorized by different subjects, whether you're calling it career, money, love, wellness, and much
Okay.
more. When you're reading about a member's experience of what they manifested, you're actually seeing to believe and showing your subconscious that that very thing is possible for you. The second place I like to direct people is to the free clarity exercise, which is also linked
This
below.
is
In
straight.
it, you get to try our own unique hypnosis process,
straight.
learn about the science, and journaling.
Right now I don't
And the best
care.
part about this, you'll get
Okay.
a tiny taste of what it's
I'm
like
tired of
to go
hearing
to
this, so. Any recommendations for what we should listen to? YouTube doesn't let me play music. It's like copyright, copyright. Maybe we can watch a show. Let's do Santa Clarita Diet. Yeah.
So I have these prints. Oh, see, these no good. Put outside with polished Welsh bread.
I need to know what it says. Please? I'll bring you another empty box.
It say, man eat man to live. This is story of village of Pasica. When I little girl, they tell this story to frighten children's whole village turned to monster. Man eat wife, mother eat child. Dead eat life. My father tell me if I dare, he send me to Pasica. And they eat my face.
So many different styles of parenting, huh? I'll say. So, what does this one mean?
Without cure, men will die.
Wait, does it cure? What is it?
Who knows? Pictures come from very old book. Cure in book, but book very rare.
Do you have book?
Do you have Mona Lisa?
Somebody threw donuts in the yard. What are you doing here?
I felt very bad about the tension between you and my wife the other day, so I brought your grandmother a empty box.
I told your people to stay away from me. And now here you are, in my house, with my baka.
I didn't eat any of them.
My grandmother!
Andre, a nice boy.
Nice boy. But I leave now.
Bye, Christian.
God, that really, really gets in there.
Bye, guys.